Awareness is the bridge that turns simple listening into deep understanding. Without awareness, even the most profound message from the universe passes by unnoticed. Awareness is not just attention, it is presence. The ability to observe without judgment, to see without distortion, and to feel without resistance. It is the quiet state in which you begin to perceive reality as it is, not as your mind interprets it. The universe constantly sends signs, lessons, and guidance, but unless you are aware, they appear invisible. Awareness sharpens perception. It transforms random events into meaningful patterns and coincidences into communication. The more awake you become to life, the more clearly you recognize that everything, every emotion, every encounter, every challenge, is a message meant for your evolution. When you live unconsciously, you move through life on autopilot. You react instead of respond. You repeat patterns without realizing you are repeating them. You see situations as isolated instead of connected. But awareness wakes you up from that dream. It gives you the capacity to pause, to observe, to understand why things happen the way they do. You begin to see that the universe has never stopped speaking to you. It was your own lack of presence that kept you from hearing it. The moment awareness enters, confusion begins to fade. You realize that the external world is only a reflection of your internal state. What you perceive outside is shaped by what you carry inside. This realization changes everything, because once you know that your awareness creates your reality, you stop trying to change life from the outside and start transforming it from within. Awareness brings light to areas of unconsciousness. It exposes patterns, fears, and attachments that once controlled you. When you become aware of your reactions, they lose their power. When you become aware of your emotions, you no longer drown in them, you understand them. When you become aware of your thoughts, you see that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This separation between the observer and the observed is the beginning of wisdom. It allows you to see life with clarity rather than through the haze of emotion or conditioning. The universe communicates through that clarity. When your mind is filled with noise, you interpret everything through distortion. But when awareness clears that noise, life's messages become simple and unmistakable. The more aware you become, the more you notice how everything around you mirrors your state of being. When you are calm, life feels smooth. When you are agitated, even small things seem chaotic. This is not coincidence. It is reflection. The universe mirrors your awareness, amplifying whatever energy you project. That is why awareness is so powerful. It gives you the ability to consciously shift your vibration. Instead of reacting to what happens, you start creating what happens through the energy you hold. Awareness turns you from a passive participant into an active co-creator of your life. You begin to see how your thoughts and emotions shape the field of reality around you. The moment you raise your awareness, your reality begins to shift to match it. Awareness also brings compassion. When you are conscious of your own inner struggles, you begin to understand the struggles of others. You stop judging and start empathizing. You realize that every person you meet is also learning, also being shaped by the universe through their own experiences. You see that hurt people because they are unaware of their pain. Awareness softens the heart and opens it to connection. Through awareness, understanding replaces anger, and forgiveness replaces resentment. You stop taking things personally because you understand that every interaction is simply life reflecting lessons back to you. This awareness is not weakness, it is strength. It gives you peace in situations where others would lose control. Living with awareness also means being attuned to the subtle. You start noticing synchronicities, the right message appearing at the right time, numbers repeating, or encounters that feel divinely orchestrated. These moments are the universe's language, but only awareness allows you to read it. What others dismiss as coincidence, you recognize as communication. Awareness expands your perception beyond logic. It allows intuition to speak. You start to feel when something is right or wrong without needing proof. The universe speaks most clearly through this intuitive knowing. The more aware you are, the stronger that connection becomes. Awareness transforms suffering into growth. When pain arises, the unaware mind blames or resists it. The aware mind observes and learns from it. Awareness allows you to see the purpose within the struggle. It doesn't remove challenges, but it removes confusion about them. You begin to understand that every hardship carries a hidden gift, every ending hides a new beginning, and every silence holds a deeper meaning. You realize that the universe does not punish, it teaches. And the more aware you are, the faster you understand the lesson and move forward. Pain becomes a teacher, not an enemy. When awareness becomes your way of living, life slows down in a beautiful way. You stop rushing through moments because you realize that each one carries something sacred. You start savoring the present, listening deeply to conversations, observing nature, and feeling gratitude for small things. Awareness turns ordinary experiences into gateways of presence. The sound of rain, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your breath. Everything becomes a message reminding you that life itself is miraculous. You start seeing beauty where before there was boredom, wisdom where before there was confusion, and peace where before there was chaos. Awareness is not something you gain once and keep forever. It is something you must continuously cultivate. The mind will always try to pull you back into distraction, but each moment gives you another chance to awaken. Every breath invites you to return to the now, the only place the universe truly speaks. Awareness is the ear that listens to that voice. When you are aware, you live in harmony with life's rhythm instead of struggling against it. You stop waiting for signs and realize that every moment is a sign. You stop searching for purpose and realize that awareness itself is purpose. To be fully alive, fully present, and fully connected to the whole. Ultimately, awareness is the meeting point between the human self and the universal self. It is the moment you awaken from illusion and see that there is no separation between you and existence. When you live with awareness, you are no longer lost in thought or trapped by fear. You become the witness, calm, clear, connected. And in that witnessing, the universe speaks through you, not to you. You no longer need to chase understanding because you become understanding itself. Awareness transforms listening into communion, perception into wisdom, and life itself into a living conversation with the universe. Trusting the timing of life is one of the hardest, yet most liberating lessons you can ever learn. The human mind is impatient by nature. It wants to see results, answers, and outcomes immediately. It believes that everything must unfold according to its own schedule. But the universe does not operate on human time. It flows with divine timing. Everything happens when it is meant to happen. Not when you want it, but when you are ready for it. To trust the timing of the universe is to recognize that there are forces at play beyond your control, guiding your path with a wisdom far greater than your plans. It is to let go of resistance and surrender to the deeper intelligence that shapes the rhythm of existence. Every delay you face has meaning. Every pause is a preparation. When things don't unfold as quickly as you hope, it's not because you're being denied. It's because something within you is still being refined. The universe does not withhold, it aligns. Sometimes it holds back what you desire because if it arrived too early, you would not yet have the strength, awareness, or discipline to sustain it. Life is not interested in giving you fleeting moments of success. It wants you to be ready to hold and embody what you are asking for. Growth often happens in the silence between what you want and when it arrives. That waiting period is sacred. It is the space where your roots deepen so that your branches can later expand. Trusting the timing means understanding that everything has its natural order. Day follows night, spring follows winter, and birth follows gestation. You cannot force the flower to bloom by pulling on its petals, nor can you force your destiny by rushing through your lessons. The universe moves with precision. What is meant for you cannot be lost, and what is not meant for you will never stay, no matter how tightly you cling. When you trust this, you stop fighting reality. You begin to live in flow, allowing life to unfold rather than trying to control every detail of its unfolding. There will be moments when the path seems unclear, when doors close unexpectedly, and when silence replaces progress. In those moments, doubt creeps in. You may question whether life has forgotten you, whether the universe is truly listening. But it is often during those quiet, uncertain stretches that the greatest alignment is taking place beneath the surface. Just as seeds germinate in darkness before breaking through the soil, your breakthroughs are being formed in unseen ways. The absence of movement does not mean the absence of progress. The universe is always in motion, even when you cannot see it. Trusting the timing means resting in that unseen movement with faith rather than fear. The impatience of the mind often leads to unnecessary struggle. When you try to rush the process, you end up creating resistance. You push against the natural flow and make the journey harder than it needs to be. But when you trust the timing, you conserve your energy. You realize that peace does not come from controlling life, but from aligning with it. You stop chasing outcomes and start cultivating readiness. You focus less on when and more on who. Who you are becoming in this moment, who you must be to receive what you seek. That shift from impatience to presence is what opens the next chapter of your evolution. There is a hidden perfection in how life unfolds. Think of the times when something didn't work out the way you wanted, only for you to later realize it was a blessing. A missed opportunity led you to a better one. A rejection redirected you to something more aligned. A delay gave you the time to prepare for what was coming. In the moment, it may have felt like loss, but in hindsight, it was divine order. The universe does not make mistakes. It orchestrates lessons. It withholds not to punish you, but to protect you from premature arrival, from stepping into what you are not yet equipped to hold. Trusting the timing also requires humility. It is an acknowledgement that the universe knows more than you do, that there is a design beyond what your limited perception can grasp. You may think you are ready for certain experiences, but life knows otherwise. The events that seem out of place now are the very ones that will make perfect sense later. You cannot see the entire tapestry while you're still standing on a single thread. When you step back and let time weave its pattern, you realize that everything is interconnected. Every delay, every detour, every waiting period is part of a greater design that serves your growth. The mind wants certainty, but the universe offers faith. Trusting the timing is about replacing control with surrender, anxiety with acceptance, and impatience with inner peace. It is about understanding that you don't need to force what is meant for you. Your only task is to remain aligned, aware, and receptive. When you let go of the obsession with timing, life begins to flow more smoothly. You start noticing that what is truly right for you arrives effortlessly. Not through struggle, but through synchronicity. The right people, opportunities, and moments align themselves when you are vibrationally ready, not when you are emotionally desperate. Trust is an energy, and the universe responds to it. When you trust, you vibrate with openness rather than fear. You signal that you are ready to receive without forcing. That signal draws to you what belongs to you naturally. Impatience, on the other hand, blocks that flow. It tells the universe you do not believe in its process, and so it mirrors your resistance by delaying what you seek. Patience, therefore, is not passive, it is powerful alignment. It is a quiet statement that says, I know it is already mine, and I will meet it when the time is right. In the stillness of trust, life feels lighter. You no longer panic when things don't go as planned, because you understand that the universe's plan is wiser than yours. You no longer fear missed opportunities, because what is meant for you will always circle back. You begin to live with gratitude even before things unfold, because you know that divine timing never fails. Everything that is meant for you is already moving toward you. Maybe slowly, maybe silently, but surely. And when it arrives, you will see why it couldn't have come any sooner or any later. Trusting the timing of the universe is the art of surrendering without giving up. It is the realization that you are part of something intelligent, rhythmic, and perfect. Life is not random, it is precise. The delays are not denials, they are preparations. The pauses are not punishments, they are protection. And once you truly understand this, peace replaces pressure, faith replaces fear, and you begin to walk with the calm knowing that everything unfolds exactly as it should. Always, and in its own divine time. Stillness is the state in which you return to harmony with existence. It is not the absence of movement, but the awareness within it. The universe operates in a perfect rhythm. Stars move in silence, rivers flow without resistance, and seasons change without effort. When you find stillness within yourself, you begin to move in alignment with that rhythm. Most people live in a constant rush, pulled by thoughts, emotions, and fears that keep them disconnected from this universal flow. They are trying to control life instead of allowing life to guide them. But stillness teaches that you are not separate from the current. You are part of it. When you stop fighting the flow, you begin to understand that everything you've been seeking has always been moving toward you at its own time. The human mind is restless. It wants to analyze, plan, and predict. It clings to the past and worries about the future, rarely allowing itself to simply be. But life unfolds only in the present. When you are still, you step into that present moment where all truth lives. In stillness, the noise of thought fades, and the deeper intelligence of the universe becomes audible. You stop reacting and start responding. You no longer chase meaning. You perceive it. The calm mind does not stop life from happening. It allows life to happen through you. This is what it means to align with universal flow, to trust the intelligence that is already at work, guiding everything from the movement of galaxies to the beating of your heart. There is immense power in stillness. It allows clarity to rise naturally, like the reflection that appears only when the water is undisturbed. When you are caught in mental turbulence, your perception becomes distorted. You misread signs, make decisions from fear, and create resistance to what already is. But when you are still, you begin to see reality as it truly is, not as your thoughts describe it. From that perception comes wisdom, and from wisdom comes peace. The greatest strength often lies not in action, but in awareness before action. Stillness gives you that awareness. It allows your energy to settle so that your choices are guided not by impulse, but by insight. The universe flows through balance, expansion and contraction, movement and rest, sound and silence. To align with it, you must also honor these cycles within yourself. There are times to move forward and times to pause, times to act and times to reflect. Many people resist rest because they equate stillness with stagnation. But true stillness is not idle, it is creative. Just as a seed rests in darkness before sprouting into light, stillness is where your next evolution takes root. When you are quiet, you can sense the subtle direction life is pointing you toward. The universe whispers its plans not in chaos, but in calm. If you are constantly running, you miss those signals. But when you stop and breathe, they become clear. In stillness, you begin to feel the unity between yourself and all things. The separation between you and the world fades. You realize that you are not an isolated individual navigating existence. You are existence expressing itself through form. This realization dissolves fear and struggle, because how can you fight against the flow when you are the flow itself? Life becomes a dance, not a battle. You start trusting the timing of your journey, because you sense that the same force that moves the tides also moves your destiny. What once felt like coincidence becomes coordination. What once felt like delay becomes divine timing. Stillness also has a healing quality. The mind often carries wounds from the past that never had the space to be seen. In the silence of stillness, these wounds come to light. Not to hurt you, but to be released. You start to see that much of your suffering was not caused by events themselves, but by resistance to them. Stillness allows you to let go of that resistance. You no longer need to control what has already been or force what has yet to come. You learn to meet life as it is. From that acceptance, peace arises naturally. There is a reason why nature is peaceful even in motion. The wind moves, the waves crash, yet everything is in perfect balance. Nature acts from instinct, not resistance. When you find stillness, you begin to move like that, with grace, not force. You stop trying to rush your growth. You stop comparing your path to others. You begin to understand that flowers bloom not by effort, but by alignment with their own timing. You too have a season for everything, for learning, for healing, for evolving. Stillness allows you to sense which season you are in and to honor it fully. Stillness is not only about sitting in meditation or escaping noise. It is a state of being you can carry into everything you do. You can walk still, work still, speak still. It means your actions are infused with awareness. You can be surrounded by chaos and yet remain unmoved within. This is true power. To be calm in the storm, not because the storm disappeared, but because you no longer depend on the external for your peace. From that inner calm, your energy changes, and so does everything around you. The world begins to mirror your stillness because the universe responds to vibration, not words. When you are still, inspiration flows effortlessly. Ideas, solutions, and insights appear because you have stopped blocking them with constant mental movement. You become a channel through which the universe can create. Great art, wisdom, and innovation often arise in moments of deep stillness when the mind is open and receptive. The same force that breathes life into galaxies breathes ideas into human consciousness, but it can only enter a mind that is quiet enough to receive it. Stillness is not a destination. It is a way of being. It is a returning, a remembering that you were never separate from life, only distracted from it. The more you practice being still, the more natural it becomes. You start to notice that life flows smoother, opportunities appear without force, and challenges no longer shake you as they once did. You realize that nothing external has changed. You have changed. You are now flowing with life, not against it. In the end, stillness is the meeting point between the human and the divine. It is where your limited mind dissolves into infinite awareness. It is where you stop trying to understand the universe and start experiencing it directly. In stillness, you do not chase the flow. You become the flow. And when you live in that state, life no longer feels like something to survive or control. It becomes something sacred to witness, something to move with, effortlessly, peacefully, completely aligned with the rhythm of the universe itself. Life is always speaking, but not in words. It communicates through experience, through moments that shape your heart, test your strength, and awaken your awareness. Every event that crosses your path carries meaning beyond the surface. The people you meet, the emotions you feel, the opportunities that appear or vanish. None of these are random. The universe uses them as instruments of teaching. It does not speak to your ears, it speaks to your soul. But the problem is that most people are too focused on what happens to them rather than what happens within them. They ask, "Why is this happening?" instead of asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" The difference between confusion and wisdom lies in the way you interpret experience. When you understand that life is a teacher, you begin to view challenges differently. What once felt like punishment starts to look like preparation. Every disappointment becomes a mirror reflecting something you needed to see. When you lose something you thought you couldn't live without, you are not being deprived, you are being redirected. Life communicates through such redirections. It removes what no longer serves your evolution and places before you exactly what will help you grow, even if it doesn't feel pleasant at first. Pain, therefore, is not the language of cruelty, but of transformation. It is how the universe gets your attention when gentle signs are ignored. The lesson repeats until you listen. And once you understand the message, the same pain no longer returns, because it has fulfilled its purpose. Every emotion is also a form of communication. Joy tells you when you are aligned with your truth. Anxiety tells you when you are disconnected from it. Gratitude expands what you have, resentment shrinks it. Life constantly mirrors your internal state through how you feel. When you are angry, life sends you more situations to validate your anger. When you are peaceful, life sends you more reasons to stay that way. The outer world bends to reflect the energy you hold within. So, when you stop blaming the external and start listening internally, you begin to understand the real dialogue taking place. Life is not happening to you. It is happening for you, as you, and through you. Every person who enters your journey is also a messenger. Some come to teach love, others come to teach patience, forgiveness, or detachment. Some will hurt you so deeply that you'll be forced to grow stronger. Others will love you so purely that you'll learn how to love yourself. Whether they stay for a lifetime or a moment, each one is part of your awakening. When you stop labeling experiences as good or bad, you begin to see the hidden intelligence behind them. What you once resented becomes something you thank, because without it, you would not have become who you are. Life communicates most clearly when you stop resisting it. Resistance creates noise, acceptance creates space. When something unexpected happens, instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What is this teaching me right now?" Maybe it's teaching patience when everything feels delayed. Maybe it's teaching humility when your ego wanted validation. Maybe it's teaching surrender when your mind wanted control. These experiences refine your awareness. They are not punishments, they are instructions. You are not being tested to break you, but to build you. The universe shapes your soul the way the ocean shapes the stone. Slowly, persistently, and purposefully. There is a rhythm to life that only experience can reveal. When you look back at difficult times, you often realize how they connected to later blessings. You see how loss led to renewal, how endings opened new beginnings, and how confusion created clarity. The thread was always there, you just couldn't see it while living it. That is why trust is essential. Even when the meaning isn't clear, Trust that every experience carries a hidden order. You don't always need to understand the language of life immediately. Sometimes you just need to live it long enough for the meaning to appear. The more conscious you become, the more fluently you understand this language. You begin to notice signs, small synchronicities that guide you. A book that falls open on the exact words you needed. A stranger who says something that answers your question. A delay that saves you from harm. These are not coincidences, they are responses. Life speaks softly, and experience is its way of communicating in a form you can feel, not just hear. The mistake most people make is looking for verbal confirmation when life communicates through vibration. To understand life, you must learn to feel, not just think. Experiences are how the universe shapes wisdom. You can read about patience, but until you've waited, you don't truly know it. You can talk about forgiveness, but until you've been hurt, you don't embody it. You can preach peace, but until chaos surrounds you, you don't realize where peace truly comes from. Words can inspire, but experience transforms. Life's lessons are written not in ink, but in moments. Moments that test, break, and rebuild you until you become what the lesson intended. Even the smallest experiences carry messages. The way someone looks at you, the timing of a call, the feeling you get before making a decision. These are all whispers of guidance. But the mind is too impatient to wait for understanding. It wants instant answers. The universe, however, speaks in cycles. It will repeat an experience in different forms until you understand it deeply. This is why similar patterns appear in your life. Different people, same pain. Once you recognize the pattern and choose differently, you show the universe that you've understood. The lesson ends, and a new one begins. To live wisely is to live attentively. Every sunrise, every setback, every silence is a message waiting to be heard. You don't need to search for divine communication in distant temples or sacred texts. Life itself is the scripture, and experience is its verse. Each day is a page written by the universe, and how you read it determines how you grow. When you listen deeply to life, you realize it was never against you. It was always guiding you, shaping you, refining you into the version of yourself capable of hearing its truth. Life communicates through experience, because words are too small to hold its wisdom. To understand that, you must stop interpreting events as random and start recognizing them as divine dialogues between your soul and the universe. When you do, everything, even the pain, begins to make sense. There is a voice that echoes beyond words. It vibrates in the silence between your thoughts, in the rhythm of your breath, in the movement of the wind, and in the stillness of the stars. That voice is not human. It belongs to the universe. It has always been speaking, guiding, teaching, reminding, but few truly listen. The noise of our modern world has grown louder than our own awareness, drowning out the whisper that carries truth. We are surrounded by messages, signs, and synchronicities, yet the mind, full of its own chatter, rarely hears what life is trying to say. Silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is the presence of everything unseen, everything subtle, everything sacred. In silence, the mind slows down enough for the heart to speak, and the heart slows down enough for the universe to be heard. We spend much of our lives surrounded by noise, external and internal. The world around us hums with endless distractions, notifications, conversations, expectations, and demands. But the real noise lies within us. The noise of doubt, judgment, memory, fear, and desire. It is that internal storm that keeps us from perceiving the gentle frequency through which the universe communicates. Silence, therefore, is not a void to be filled, but a doorway to understanding. When you enter it consciously, you begin to hear a voice that was always there. Quiet but constant, patient but profound. Every spiritual tradition has emphasized silence as a form of connection, not isolation. The great paradox of silence is that it is not empty, it is overflowing with intelligence. Within it, the energy of life becomes clear. The universe speaks not through chaos, but through rhythm, through subtle synchronicities, through patterns that emerge when you are aware enough to notice them. When you are silent, you begin to sense these patterns. You start recognizing that what seemed random is actually deliberate, that what felt meaningless carries guidance. But to perceive this, you must quiet the endless commentary of the mind. The more you think, the less you hear. The more you react, the less you receive. Silence is the bridge that allows the wisdom of the unseen to cross into your awareness. When you truly listen in silence, time begins to slow. You notice how your breath connects you to the wind, how your heartbeat synchronizes with the pulse of the earth. You realize that you are not separate from existence, you are a part of its music. Every tree, every wave, every gust of wind vibrates at its own frequency, yet together they form a symphony. You, too, are an instrument in that orchestra. But when your mind is loud, you play out of tune. Silence allows you to retune yourself, to align with the rhythm that the universe is already playing. The stiller you become, the clearer the melody. In moments of silence, intuition awakens. You begin to feel the answers that the intellect could never articulate. Problems that seemed unsolvable lose their heaviness because silence gives you perspective. It reminds you that not every battle needs to be fought. Not every situation needs control. Silence teaches acceptance, not as surrender, but as understanding that everything unfolds according to a greater design. The universe whispers direction, not through noise, but through resonance. When you are silent, you can feel what resonates and what does not. You sense what belongs to your path and what is meant to be released. This is how the universe speaks. Not in commands, but in gentle nudges that only the quiet heart can feel. Many people fear silence because it exposes them to themselves. In silence, there is no distraction, no escape, no role to hide behind. The mind confronts its own restlessness, its own shadows. But that discomfort is sacred. It is the beginning of awareness. The noise you hear in silence is not the universe, it is your own unexamined thoughts. And once you allow them to surface without judgment, they begin to dissolve. Beneath them, a deeper stillness emerges, one that is not created but revealed. In that stillness, you find connection, not loneliness, clarity, not confusion. The universe begins to communicate in the language of energy, showing you what your words could never express. Silence also refines perception. When you listen without speaking, you begin to see with greater depth. You notice how life responds to you, how nature reacts to your presence, how people mirror your energy. You begin to understand that silence is not passivity, it is presence. From that presence, action becomes conscious rather than compulsive. The universe doesn't require noise to move mountains, it operates through silent precision. The same force that moves the planets also guides your life. Quietly, persistently, and perfectly. There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than anything you could say. When you stand beneath a night sky filled with stars, words fall away. When you witness loss, or love, or beauty beyond description, silence becomes the only truthful response. In those moments, you sense the vastness of existence and the smallness of the self. But that smallness is not weakness. It is freedom. You realize you are part of something infinite, and all your fears, your plans, your noise seem so temporary. Silence reminds you that what you truly are is not the voice in your head, but the awareness behind it. To live with silence does not mean to abandon the world. It means to live with depth, to speak from clarity rather than reaction, to act with intention rather than impulse. The most powerful words are born from silence, the most profound decisions arise from stillness, and the greatest transformations begin in quiet reflection. Silence allows you to hear what is real, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. When you cultivate silence, you become sensitive to life itself. You begin to notice the signs: a sudden meeting, a repeating number, a feeling that something is right or wrong. These are not coincidences, they are the universe speaking. But without silence, you mistake them for randomness. Silence is what turns coincidence into communication. Ultimately, silence is the original teacher. It teaches patience, humility, awareness, and connection. It reminds you that truth is not loud, that guidance does not need volume, and that the deepest wisdom comes not from speaking, but from listening. The universe speaks to everyone, but only the silent hear its song. And when you learn to live in that silence, you no longer seek answers from outside, because you realize that everything you need to know is already within, waiting to be heard in the quiet voice of the universe.